rate, marking a significant increase of 2.8 percentage points from the 2022 80.1% pass rate. Out of the 715,719 full-time candidates who enrolled to write the National Senior Certificate exams, an impressive 572,983 students successfully passed. Notably, the number of bachelor passes rose to 40.9% in 2023 from 38.4% in 2022. It is also noteworthy to observe an upward improvement in the provincial results across all provinces, as well as 40.9% bachelor pass, 27.2% diploma pass, and a 14.8% higher certificate pass. This commendable upward trajectory provides yet another opportunity for our post-school education and training sector to meet its National Development Plan targets. I also congratulate all our PSET students who also wrote their 2023 examinations at our TVET colleges, community colleges and universities. We released the electronic results for the National Certificate Vocational, NCV and Engineering Studies to TVET campuses on the 11th of January 2024 after approval of results on the 9th of January 2024. We released the electronic results for Business Studies to campuses on the 10th January 2024 after approval of results on the 9th of January 2024. On the 14th to the 17th of January, provinces printed statement of results for GETC ABET L4 for release to candidates on the 20th of January 2024 after approval of results again on the 9th of January 2024. As part of our 30th celebration of the advent of our democracy in South Africa this year, and the 12 years of the adoption of the National Development Plan, my Department of Higher Education and Training ensured that we continue to expand access of the post-school education and training system, improve efficiency of the PSET system to ensure the resources are used optimally, and enhance the responsiveness of the PSET system. I want to say without fear of contradiction that since the advent of our democratic government, we have substantially grown access by systematically transforming the nature, size, and shape of our PSET system to meet South Africa's vital national developmental goals. Our universities are poised to meet their NDP enrollment target of 1.62 million by 2030. We have taken a decision to further massify our TVET college system towards the goal of 2.5 million enrollment in this sector, although this will require significantly higher levels of investment, new infrastructure, staff and student enrollments. Significantly more funding will also be required to triple the community education and training gross students enrollments to 1 million in order to meet our NDP 2030 targets. However, we have increased the enrollments of both male and female students and significantly increased the overall enrollment of Black African students in our public universities, with over 80% of total student enrollment. This marks a major transformation. Levels have increased significantly. We still have to decisively deal with deep-seated class inequalities manifest across the racial demographics of our post-school system. From 2016 to 2023, we increased a proportion of students living with disabilities in our sector to about 0.8%. We are determined to increase these numbers by making sure that their learning and living environment is improved to meet their requirements. To ensure the success of our post-school education and training system, PSET as we call it, we have also vigorously promoted attainment of higher levels of success and graduation rates of both females and male students, and TVET colleges certification rate also increased significantly. Our university sector is now more efficient in terms of throughput rates and with the decline also of the dropout rates. We are managing the dropout rate of students in all our institutions by means of multiple social interventions within all our institutions and across the system, with the particular assistance of psychosocial services provided by Higher Health. Public spending on our post-school education and training system has significantly our national budget and wealth on education, both schooling and post-schooling. Our spending, my apologies. Kube khona abantu labangafuna ukukhuluma ngelinye ilanga. Ungabazi ukuthi bavelaphi. Upasophe njengoba emva kwami nje sompisi ngingacabanga ukuthi wena. Our spending on education as a proportion of overall government expenditure, which is 22.7% in 2019-2020, and in terms of GDP, 7 by UNESCO, which recommends allocating 15 to 20% of public spending to education and 4 to 6% of GDP to education. We are above international norms on expenditure, and percentage-wise even exceed or proportionately the expenditure of BRICS countries, as well as the average for the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development countries. Through the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, we continue to support students from the working class and the poor, with over 70% of university students and over 90% of TVET college students benefiting from NSFAS bursaries. The drastic expansion of NSFAS funding in recent years has been accompanied also by massive increases in infrastructure funding across the post-school education and training system to enable new academic facilities and student residences to be constructed. This is a clear success story of the 6th administration and a lasting legacy for future generations. Bapha bathasisebenzi abanomona. Muhle umsebenzi owenziwa umnyango. Sisebenza sibambisene. As announced by the President during State of the Nation address, we will establish a University of Science and Innovation in Neguruleni that will enable young people to be trained in high-impact and cutting-edge technological innovation for current and future industries, as well as a new University of Crime and Policing Studies in Hammanskraal to improve the quality of education and training. Planning work is currently underway to provide government with detailed plans to enable the long-term development of the new academic institutions, and it is expected that this work will commence in 2024. To further enhance the responsiveness of our post-school education and training, we continue to refine our programs in all of our institutions to be responsive to the needs of the labor market, particularly to provide skills in science, engineering, and technology fields of study. Through our TVET colleges, we also continue to increase learning programs required for occupations in high demand. On the 2024 State of Readiness, we have activated an operations room and observatory to ensure timeous reporting and discussion of challenges experienced during the registration period. We have developed a monitoring tool to assess registration, readiness for teaching and learning, student academic support, management and stakeholder relations, plans for funding new and returning students, and the status of institutional finances and challenges. On TVET colleges, our TVET college classes commenced on the 15th of January 2024. Our TVET college's headcount enrollment is 482,244 students in all programs for the academic year 2024. Indeed, I must say this is still far less than where we want to go. The total of ministerially funded program enrollments for the academic year 2024 will be 407,762, of which 166,634 will be new students that we will be taking this year. The department will fund a total of 407,762 students, and the cost for the additional enrollments will be covered by the National Skills Fund, the SETAs, as well as self-paying students and the reserve fund from the colleges. Compared to 2023, our TVET college budget has increased by 3 to 4%. However, considering the increase of the program cost and increase in the compensation of employees, which amounts to over 10% in 2024, in real terms, unfortunately, the budget allocated to colleges is declining at that time when we need to be hugely expanding our college sector. As a result of this, the ministerial funded enrollment will decrease by more than 15% in 2024, resulting in the enrollment of fewer students in our public TVET colleges. After our successful launch of the new hairdressing occupational program, one of the most exciting launches that we have had this year, we are planning to enroll a total of 862 new students in 17 of our colleges for 2024. Our Centers of Specialization program have also increased their enrollment by about 40% to 3,548, of which 1,916 will be enrolled as first-year students. Upon completion of the registration process, our colleges will orientate new students to the college program offerings and college life. In an effort to create an enabling and conducive environment for students with disabilities, TVET colleges will be developing and implementing disability support policies and also establish disability support units. Lastly, in an effort to enhance student employability and promote entrepreneurship, TVET colleges are amongst others required to establish partnerships with industry for placement of students and implement student-focused entrepreneurship development programs. The State of the Nation Address target on placing 20,000 unemployed TVET college students in the workplace for experiential learning is receiving urgent attention. Our SETAs, I'm happy to point out, have provided funding for placement of students in workplaces. We have produced 19,536 artisans, 45,146 learnerships completed, 83,578 learners completed skills programs, and we created 99,778 work-based learning opportunities. In order to prepare our universities for the beginning of the academic year and to ensure stronger accountability, we have established a steering committee consisting of representatives from our Department of Higher Education and Training, the Central Application Service, universities, the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, and student leaders, both from the South African Union of Students and the South African Technical Vocational Education and Training Student Association, SABC. On university enrollments for this year, all our universities confirmed to have completed the 2023 academic year as planned in 2023, and the registration of returning students commenced on the 2nd of January this year and will end around mid-February 2024. Our first-time entering students commenced their registration on the 15th of January 2024. Their registration will close on the 15th of February 2024. Combined, all our universities received 270,000 applications for scarce skills for the academic year 2024. 67,929 of these first-time entering enrollments will be within scarce skills areas and have been projected as follows, and I'm pleased to point out at this. In the engineering field, we're expecting 18,541 new students. Life and physical science, 16,415. Animal sciences, 614. Veterinary science, 206. Human health, 9,455. And teacher education at 22,698. Following the late release, unfortunately, of the matric results, universities which will accept late applications are Cape Peninsula University of Technology, Durban University of Technology, Mangosuthu University of Technology, Rhodes University, Tswana University of Technology, University of Fort Hare, Unizulu and Walter Sisulu University. All the other universities, they indicated that they will not accept late applications. Central Application Clearinghouse, to further enable access to all our institutions to those students who have not as yet secured some place of study. We have commenced with what we call our CATCH system, that is Central Applications Clearinghouse social media campaign on the 15th of January to the 31st of March 2024. We have also sent access credentials for institutions to the CATCH system on the 19th of January 2024. The CATCH sign-up service will also be made available for students to sign up from the 26th of January until the 31st of March 2024. Institutions will access CATCH system from 30 January 2024 until 30 October 2024. CATCH services are available from Mondays to Friday between 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. CATCH, to remind ourselves simply, is that if you hadn't applied to any university, or you have applied, you haven't gotten a response on availability of the program you want to do, you go into the CATCH system and check which universities have got space available in the program that you want to do. So it's a very, very helpful facility that we established some years ago. Sfaka Makgatho University, Tswana University of Technology, University of Limpopo, Valley University of Technology, and University of the Western Cape are receiving applications from CAS in the current phase of the pilot implementation. And UJ, Rhodes University, Solplaatje University in Kimberley, and University of Mpumalanga will be incorporated in the next phase. We therefore urge the remaining universities to put their names forward so that CAS coverage expands until it has a national footprint. On community colleges have opened on the 18th of January 2024 for both inland and coastal colleges. Our community colleges have approximately 75,000 spaces available for the 2024 academic year. We have introduced a new program, I'm very pleased to say, on civic education in all our community colleges for the 2024 academic year, after piloting by Higher Health. Our community colleges are progressively introducing skills programs, occupational programs, learnerships and non-formal programs with funding from the National Scholarship with NEMISA for community college lecturers. We have also updated our subject assessment guidelines and distributed them to community colleges in preparation for the 2024 academic year. We use the last quarter of 2023 academic year for advocacy and to recruit new students into community college programs. Let me say something on unregistered private colleges. I want to once more send my warning to unsuspecting students and parents to be aware of what we call bogus colleges, which mislead members of the public through false promising advertisements which illegally promise to be offering both nationally and internationally recognized qualifications. I respect the public to be vigilant and not fall for fake operators who are not registered and recognized by the South African qualification system. We urge all parents and students to check on registered colleges in our DHET website. Go to this website to check if the college you are seeing or you want to register with is registered. The website address is www.dhet.gov.za. Let me come back to NSFAS and also to broaden access to sections of our communities, among others through the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. NSFAS remains a unique and the only government agency in the world that provides a wraparound and comprehensive funding mechanism to students in the universities and colleges. It is truly the most progressive effort by the ANC government to systematically break the legacies of intergenerational social inequality and poverty in access to post-school education and training. Whatever challenges that NSFAS comes across, but its funding has grown from disbursing 21.4 million in 1991 to 48 billion rands in 2023. This is no small achievement, and NSFAS continues to fund students from working class and poor backgrounds. This is a clear indication that government has prioritized the post-school education and training funding and broadened access to those sections of our community who had no access to post-school education and training in the past. The scheme, with its enormous responsibility, continues to strengthen its governance and management structures by attracting relevant skills to ensure that it fulfills its mandate. I welcome the intervention by the board of NSFAS to ensure that it develops mechanisms to deal with all the challenges in the scheme. I will continue to monitor very closely developments to ascertain that the scheme is able to deliver on its mandate. This is particularly important if we consider the structural and social constraints to accessing education that was imposed by centuries of colonial and apartheid rule. There is no doubt that this government has made a decisive contribution towards a break with these reproductive legacies of the past in the funding guidelines. On the 2023 outstanding disbursements from NSFAS, in this very same room on the 18th of January 2024, NSFAS reported on the number of the 2023 outstanding allowances following the thorough analysis of the data provided by institutions in order to finalize the payment of outstanding allowances for the 2023 academic year. I call upon NSFAS, working together with the affected institutions, to ensure that they speedily resolve all these outstanding cases. Whilst this is being resolved, I urge institutions not to deny NSFAS-funded students with outstanding payments to register for the current cycle. Submission of accurate registration information is important to circumvent delays in the payment processes. I've noted with concern that the main reason for the outstanding payments was due to reconciliations that NSFAS has been engaged with institutions, predominantly because of registration data changes. NSFAS needs to be more strict in 2024 on how it manages the registration adjustment process, and institutions ought to submit their registration information accurately and timeously upon first submission. Having noted the importance of registration data to the payment process for the 2024 academic year, institutions must submit registration data as soon as they are allowed to, and for the first cycle of funding, all registration claims to be submitted by no later than the 31st of March 2024. On bursary applications, that is NSFAS bursary applications for 2024, to date, NSFAS has 1.5 million received applications as of the 21st January 2024. NSFAS has provisionally funded already 657,703 applicants, mainly who are SASSA recipients. This thing that we are not funding is simply just not true. Much as we have challenges in some respects, but NSFAS has already provisionally funded over 657,000 students. NSFAS anticipates additional applications before the close of the 2024 application cycle, which closes on the 31st of January this year. All 2024 NSFAS applicants are requested to submit a consent form in order to verify relevant information from third parties, from SASSA, from SARS, and so on. This information is required to verify the employment status and income level of the parents, guardians, or spouses of the applicant. It is mandatory for applicants to download and upload a completed consent form on the NSFAS website or NSFAS portal or its mobile application. The SARS consent form requirements affect students who are in the application data category, and these students on how to upload the form. Non-submission of a complete, accurate, and duly signed NSFAS consent form would disqualify a student for NSFAS funding due to a NSFAS inability to evaluate and determine financial eligibility. Such applications will be closed and regarded as rejected. So we call upon all applicants to please apply on time, fill all the forms, sign the consent forms in order to ensure that you have applied. It is important that SASSA beneficiaries who have been approved for funding are not required to submit this form. This is because no financial checks are conducted on the parents, guardians, or spouses of the applicants in this case. In other words, those who receive SASSA grants, they automatically get funded by NSFAS. Students should note that not submitting the consent form will result in a delay and would mean the student would not receive a bursary, the outcome of the application. This form will ensure that NSFAS complies with all the legislative requirements. This is wanted by law as well. As part of ensuring a smooth beginning to the 2024 academic year, NSFAS will process up to 4.2 billion rand as an upfront payment to all our colleges and universities prior to the finalization of the application and registration periods. Out of its financial reserve, NSFAS will pay 1 billion rand to TVET colleges and 3.2 billion rand to universities so that they can register the institutions. This money will cover registration as well as part of the initial funds that are required. Eligibility of criteria and conditions for financial aid. Before I provide details of our 2024 student allowances, I would like to share on some critical information on NSFAS eligibility criteria and conditions for financial aid. In terms of the NSFAS Act 56 of 1999, NSFAS is established to provide bursaries to eligible students and to develop criteria and conditions for the granting of bursaries to eligible students. Students must be formally registered to study for an approved NSFAS-funded qualification at an institution, subject to institutional DHET-approved enrollment plans, and meet the financial eligibility criteria and academic criteria before a bursary award is confirmed. In other words, a NSFAS will indicate that you qualify for a bursary, but until you register, that money won't be paid until you register, and then it is paid to the institution that you are supposed to go to. Equally important, let me state that a student must be studying towards their first certificate qualification or undergraduate qualification for them to qualify for a NSFAS bursary. Students who have already studied at a university or obtained a prior university qualification do not qualify as first-time entering students, even if they are entering the first academic term of a new year. Sorry. Cheers to NSFAS. Cheers. However, students starting a university qualification for the first time but who have already achieved a TVET qualification qualify as a university first-time entering student. That's very important. If you've got a TVET qualification, then you go for a diploma or degree at a university, we still treat you as a first-time entering student. Let me also indicate that continuing and first-time entering university students must, as of 2024, achieve a course credit pass rate of 50%. Kufanele upass ukuze uthole usizo. Continuing an FT and first-time entering university students must achieve a course credit pass rate of 60% for the end of the 2024 academic year to succeed academically for 2025 funding year. TVET college students must take note that a bursary may only be awarded to them when they progress to the next NCV level and if they passed at least 5 subjects in the previous NCV level. A bursary may only be awarded to students progressing to the Report 191 level if they passed a minimum of 3 subjects in the previous N level. Results shared with NSFAS. Let me also restate that a student that is no longer compliant with the university academic progression pathways or exceeds the university N+ rule may not be funded to study at a university, or continuing student who did not meet academic progression criteria may lodge an appeal with the NSFAS, and we have said to NSFAS, deal with these appeals as swiftly as possible. On year 2024 allowances. In 2024, living allowance will be 16,500 Rand for university students, which will be made up of 3,045 personal care allowance per year and 13,455 meal allowance per year. Ukwazi nokuthenga i-shield uma udlula kuthiwa usanuka kamnandi students akwa-NSFAS. In the TVET sector, I am happy to announce that the TVET living allowance will increase from 6,000 to 10,000 Rand. This was done as part of the continued efforts to bring parity between university and TVET sectors and is a significant achievement in driving transformation in the TVET sector. This shows our continued commitment in supporting and strengthening the TVET sector, including supporting students there. Students may either qualify for the travel allowance or the accommodation allowance. All institution-owned or leased and private accommodation will now be kept at 50,000 Rands per annum. Remember, by the way, we only pay for 10 months. So 50,000 Rand is not a small amount of money. That is now in metro areas. That's where we will cap the rooms, and 41,000 Rand in all other areas per academic year. Students living in institutions catered accommodation qualify for a maximum allowance capped at 66,000 Rand, 500 Rand in metros, and 57,500 in all other areas per annum. Accommodation inclusive of the living allowance and personal care. Institutions in non-metro areas may request NSFAS to review this assigned accommodation cap in exceptional circumstances. Such requests must be accompanied by a detailed motivation and supporting evidence for NSFAS consideration. Mofuna wena ukuyohlala endaweni engaphezulu kwale limit esiyibekile. Students who opt to make their own accommodation arrangements with immediate family or with relatives do not qualify for the accommodation allowance. Instead, these students qualify for a travel allowance determined by the institution up to a maximum of 7,875 rands in 2024. All university students qualify for a learning material allowance, which is set now at a maximum of 5,460 for students for the 2024 academic year. Remember, the learning materials allowances must be used for the purchase of academic books and materials and/or a learning device. Only one allowance is provided per student per academic year. Allowances for students in distance education programs are calculated based on the number of courses registered up to a maximum of 5,460 rands. Distance university students like UNISA studying an equivalent full-time course credit load qualify for the personal care allowance of 3,045 rands per academic year. This requires a student to be registered for a minimum of 120 course credits in one academic year. Allowance up to a maximum of 5,460 rand. Distance educate university students studying per academic year. This requires a student to be registered for a minimum of 120 course credits in one academic year. TVET college-owned catered residence in metros is capped at 60,000 rand per annum and in other areas or the accommodation allowance. TVET college students who are registered on an occupational qualification may qualify for allowances only if in simulated training. Students registered on an occupational qualification that have an employment contract and are paid stipend do not qualify for NSFAS allowances. If one's practical in a particular factory or workplace and you are getting paid there, you don't then qualify for NSFAS. Allowances 20,000 rand per academic year for university students. TVET college learning material allowance is included in the cost of tuition. Very important to note that. Assisted devices allowance actual cost is limited to 50,000 rand as a once-off allowance for students with disabilities. These students also qualify for a repairs and maintenance of assistive devices that they use to the value of 2,000 rand per academic year. Students with disabilities do not automatically qualify for the allowance for assistive devices or the repairs and maintenance thereof. They are set out in this policy standard. I hope I'm not too far now. On the 14th of January, I announced the implementation of the first phase of the comprehensive student funding model will ensure that the missing middle students access financial support in the form of a loan to pursue their studies. This category of students are those who come from families who have total income of more than 350,000 rand, but not more than 600,000 rand per annum. Government has committed the initial capitalization fund totaling 3.8 billion rand to support the loan scheme in 2024. This amount comprises of 1.5 billion rands from the National Skills Fund and 2.3 billion from the Sector Education and Training Authorities, the SETAs. This amount will fund, as I have said, approximately 47% of the missing middle students. That is 31,884 of the estimated 68,446 missing middle. NSFAS is currently developing the loan scheme eligibility criteria and conditions for funding to ensure that the scheme is implemented during this academic year. However, I must upfront indicate that the scheme will fund both undergraduate and postgraduate students. 70% of these students will be in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics stream, which may be adjusted to include commercial programs that are in demand in the labor market or entrepreneurial programs. 30% of the loan will fund students in the humanities and social sciences. All the students who fall within the missing middle category must apply using the current NSFAS application period and ensure they sign the consent form to enable financial verification. All students rejected for financial eligibility will be reassessed and reviewed for the missing middle loan. NSFAS is currently developing guidelines of the loan scheme, and they will be communicated to the public in a week's time, sometime next week, middle of the week. On student debt recoveries, from the previous loan scheme, NSFAS is recovering funds from those that previously benefited from receiving from the scheme. Fortunately, the student debt stands very high, and it currently sits at over 40 billion rand. Recoveries are currently stable. However, a lot could be done in this area to augment on the funding currently provided annually from the government if the recoveries are improved. In the current financial year, the scheme has already recovered in excess of 110 million rand. I therefore want to appeal to students to come forward and be counted by making the necessary arrangements to commence or continue making payments in honor of the conditions of the previous loan scheme. This will ensure the sustainability of our loan scheme. Nina nisakweleta kaNSFAS sicela nikhokhe, niqhubeke nje nikhokhe nize nisiqede isikweletu ngoba isikweletu ukusikhokha kwenu kusiza izingane nabanye abantwana bezimva kwenu. As part of its proclamation, the Special Investigating Unit, the SIU, has also begun processes to engage former loan scheme beneficiaries to ensure acknowledgements of debt and commence making payments. Ayikho into emnandi njengokukhokhela imfundo usuqedile. Ukhokha nje futhi ukhululeke ngisho ungakaholi kakhulu ngoba uyawubona umehluko ukuthi hayi sewuye wathi ukungena endaweni ezizokuyisa phambili. To date, the SIU has secured acknowledgements of debt to the value of over 4 million rands from individuals and over 38 million rands from institutions of higher learning. Further to this, the SIU has recovered over 58 million rands from institutions, and these funds are being held in trust at the SIU. NSFAS and the SIU are engaging on the processes to return these funds. On the implementation of the NSFAS accommodation pilot project, NSFAS is also piloting the accreditation of private student accommodation in 17 universities and 23 TVET colleges for this current academic year. Through this pilot program, NSFAS intends to ensure that student accommodation service providers provide student accommodation that is accessible, decent, safe, and academically conducive for all students. Msani nina enenezindlu zomqasho nifuna ukulalisa abantwana bethu emahokweni. Abantwana kethu kufanele balale endaweni eziright. Pay accommodation fees to a certain cap for accommodation. Since the announcement of the board in December 2023, NSFAS has successfully engaged individuals on NSFAS platforms in our TVET colleges. 25,989 beds have been accredited and are available for the registered students, and 12,900, total 67,337 beds registered. 42,965 have been accredited and available, and 24,372 beds are in the process of being accredited. From the 8th January 2024, NSFAS has been providing weekly training on the application and registration process to accommodation providers and students, and this training will end in February. From the 18th of January, accrediting agents are continuing the process of accreditation, and the list is updated daily. During this for accommodation in all of our institutions. If you see a challenge in an institution, please do not shout at us and fix it to the best of our ability. I therefore call upon all our institutions to submit the list of NSFAS-funded students who have been registered. On fraud and corruption, as was previously reported, the board is currently implementing all the recommendations of the service. First management and most updated has developed a code of ethics and members. To further deal with instances of fraud and corruption, NSFAS has developed a whistleblower hotline which is monitored by the legal and forensic team on a regular basis. Vamisela ukuthi amasela abone wonke omunye umuntu ukuthi uyisela. Athi uma seyintshontshile inkukhu esehambe oyifihla ngale abese phuma memeza kuqala athi zaphela inkukhu. Ngoba ufuna kulandelwa abantu abaronge yena usebe inkukhu. Asiwona amasela kaNSFAS, asiwona amasela einkukhu. Imali yabantwana bethu le. Every cent sizo ensure sino deputy minister ukuthi it goes where it is supposed to go. Together new platforms to improve its contacts with students. NSFAS applicants can access their applications updates at their fingertips through the downloadable NSFAS student mobile app or WhatsApp line and a USSD code. Applicants can add NSFAS on WhatsApp 078 519 8006. WhatsApp 078 519 8006 or USSD asterisk 120 asterisk 67327 asterisk 120. I repeat, asterisk 67327. Facebook is National Student Financial Aid Scheme. Twitter which is called X now. Lastly, let me wish all our sector, the leadership of student formations, the governance and management of all our PSET institutions, a prayer of the seventh democratic elections. We wish therefore to urge all political parties, don't use the start of the academic year to launch your election campaign. The education of our youth and our children is much more important. It can't be allowed to be messed up. Thank you very much.
That was a very shy round of applause. Thank you so much, Minister, for that. Colleagues from the media, you've been waiting patiently as always, and we appreciate your patience. We will now give you an opportunity to ask questions on what has been delivered in front of you. And what we would request as per usual is that, and then we will take it from there. We will now open for the first round of questions. I'm going to note another hand. Okay, I see a hand there. Okay, are you scratching yourself at the back there, or are you raising your hand? Oh, he's making that other sign. Okay, I see a hand there as well. In that order, can you then go first?
Treaty Jones from ENCA. Am I loud? Am I audible? Okay. I just wanted to get clarity regarding the deadline that was previously where there were outstanding allowances from last year. About 9,000 allowances have been successfully resolved from this figure. Are the delays for these allowances to be dispersed as a result of the university registration data being delayed as well? Secondly, is the proposal for tuition and residence fee hikes for universities still saying they're experiencing a delayed response from NSFAS to be approved to provide services and accommodate students as well? Are you aware about this? Are you looking into this matter? Thank you.
Thank you. You can go next.
Good afternoon.
The second question is the fees. No, it's fees and accommodation hikes. That was the second question.
The third one was on the delays. To pick up from what my colleague was asking about the update on the outstanding 11,000 students that were yet to be paid. Is there an update? Has there been any progress since the last time we were briefed, or do things still remain the same? And secondly, again, private players in the sector when it comes to accommodation, some of them seemingly who are already accredited and are accommodating NSFAS beneficiaries, are blacklisting students whose accounts are not settled. Is the department aware of this, and what is being done about this? Lastly, the academic year 2022, how many students' fees are still outstanding from that year? Thank you.
Can we take the last one in this round, and then we will check for the next? I saw the hand that side.
Okay, I have questions here from colleagues that are attending with me from online.
Online.
Yes. The first question is from Christian Duplessis, representing Network 24. Will the so-called missing middle be able? The second question, what is the comment of the minister about the complaint that he lodged with the Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interest in Parliament about the allegations by Alta, allegedly involving the minister in corruption? The third question from Christian is, does the minister foresee any problems regarding applications for NSFAS and the payment of funds to students? Why or why not? The second question is from Tema Khan, representing Business Day. Question number one, in your last press briefing, you referred to it. Why has it not been published, and do you intend to release it, and if so, when? We have question number two. Can you provide more details on the loan scheme? The following sub-questions for question number two. When will students be able to apply for these loans, and when can they expect to know if they have been successful? Number B, what are the eligibility criteria? Number C, what is the size of the loan per student per year? And will all students, what are the repayment terms and how will the loans be recovered?
There is a set of questions that are related, especially the ones that speak to the student funding model. So perhaps the response should also be
There's lots of NSFAS questions. Maybe NSFAS would like to start.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
You want to respond or you just respond?
Thank you very much. I will attempt to summarize the questions that are related to NSFAS. The first one in relation to the outstanding payments. We released a statement last week detailing the actions that NSFAS has taken in consultations with various institutions. And we therefore confirmed that about 9,000 allowances were paid. But we just need to clarify that these allowances were not paid directly to students, because in terms of our data, we realize that the majority of those institutions have paid to some students. Then that money was then advanced to the students, to the institutions, in order for them to pay the student tuition that was left behind. And we, of course, indicated in the statement that we still have outstanding allowances that still needs to be paid, because there's some verification that still needs to be done. And there are almost 2 institutions. In the main, it's roughly 1, if I were to say, that we are working with, where majority of these allowances are. And that institution is the University of South Africa. This arose as a result of the incorrect claims that the university made in terms of the allowances, and that is being addressed accordingly. We will, in a week's time, give an update on all the outstanding allowances that are still left unattended. And in relation to the delays that might be caused by the payment of the registration fee, the minister indicated in his address that there is an advance or an upfront payment that has been paid, that will be paid to institutions by the 31st of this month, which would enable institutions to register all NSFAS students. And that is done in order to ensure that there is no delay in the beginning of the academic year. And that amount, of course, it will go for tuition and accommodation. Yes, of course, the allowances that we have indicated here will be paid this year. All the adjustments that the minister has spoken about, they are effective for the academic year 2024. I think those are the questions that I've managed to pick up. Chair? Yeah.
Are there further responses? Minister?
Yeah, I perhaps did not officially, I took it for granted that because I had announced the chair in public, that I had introduced him. I hadn't. This is Professor Lawrence van Staden, who is, raise your hand, Prof. Even professors raise their hands, who is still on leave of absence. And I wish to say thank you very much, Prof, I know that you are an extremely busy person, but I believe we appointed the right person to fit in the shoes. Thank you very much. Let me just start by saying, clarifying this thing of fees and accommodation hikes, because I explain and explain, but there is the persistence of this. I, as minister, do not increase any fees in any institutions, including costs for accommodation, rental, and all that. That's not my task. That's not my job as a minister. This thing, people saying Nzimande has hiked fees by so much percentage. It's either deliberate, since the fees must fall. One of the things that we decided we were going to do as a sector as a whole, both the minister and the vice chancellors, was that we need a mechanism to regulate the increase in fees. Because what we were running away from, government raises the amount of money to be spent on NSFAS, for example, and institutions raise the fees much higher. To target this money that has been increased for NSFAS. In every mechanism must be found to regulate the increase in fees. Whilst we are developing this statutory mechanism, which is not as yet in place, the minister, in consultation with the Council for Higher Education, as well as more, within university councils, in the case of universities. It's not me. All what I say in consultation with others, no institution can raise fees by more is institutions, but there is this framework which we agreed upon. In fact, I'm working very hard now that we finally so that I raise fees by not so much. So please, I hope this explains it. That some political parties have gone and reported me and the chairperson of NSFAS to the police. My own legal advice is that let's allow the police work to be done without any interference and take the matter from there. I still want to say I categorically denied that I got money from any of the service providers of NSFAS or that the SACP has received any money. It's very interesting when new information comes up. The media just goes completely silent and ignore it. The person who is alleged to have given money to the SACP has come out to actually say, I never gave money to the SACP. But because that's not fancy, it's beginning to show the truth. No, they are quiet. So that the media will say, the beleaguered Nzimande. I'm not beleaguered. I'm here as minister. I'm doing my work to the best of my ability and to ensure that we start the academic year appropriately. I have also offered on my own to go and appear before the Integrity Committee of the African National Congress to ex-commission of the South African Communist Party to go and explain my story. So that is options that I have. So I won't go beyond that now. There is a question which says, would I consider releasing the ministerial letter of the comprehensive student funding model? It's been a document before cabinet. Documents that are before cabinet are secret documents. But since now we have now started taking the very first steps of implementing the comprehensive student funding model, we possibly will declassify that document and release it for they actually are aware of what that says. I think I haven't left anything. All the other questions have been answered. Thank you.
Thank you for those responses. Are there any further questions we can take? Okay, noted. And then from GCIS, this thing online.
Like, two of my questions were actually not answered. That's why I'm going back. Babulisi, you can assist. The one was about, are you aware of this and what is being done? The other question was from academic year 2022, how many students' fees are still outstanding?
Thanks, Sister Todd. My brother, you will.
Good afternoon, thank you. I'm Hawala Maholeo from UFM. Minister, just last week your counterpart, the basic education minister, was we were reporting about her appealing to the young ones to take up more technology aligned, science aligned subjects. Why a police college at this time? I know of a couple of already existing public institutions that are offering policing, and of course that means they may not be police officers at the time. But why a dedicated colleges? There are some statistics that show that there's a need for this.
Yeah, I just think it's a question that was missed as well regarding the approval of private accommodation players as well. Yeah.
Did you get that one? Approval of private accommodation? Yeah. You want to repeat?
Communication from NASFAS regarding whether they can be on their list and whether they will be eligible to provide services to those students who want to live under them.
All right. So can we have those questions?
Representing Cape Town newspaper. Can you please provide an update on the operation of the new student accommodation pilot project which started at TVETs last year and is expected to be rolled out in universities in 2024? Because on the ground, students are facing challenges and some were stranded. The NSFAS accommodation portal fails to function. The second question from Omse is, Were all, third question, can we also get an update on the commencement of the application process for the new loan scheme for the 2024 academic year? Why was it decided that the students entering university for the first time must, at the end of 2024, achieve a 60% course pass rate to qualify for funding in 2025? Second question, who made this decision and when? Third question, what was the previous course pass rate criteria? Fourth question from Christian is, will the minister or senior officials explain what exactly does a 60% course pass rate mean? Another question is from Ritumetse.
And the minister today announced that for the first payments. So yes, we acknowledge that there has been those delays, be it from the institutions. We are collectively agreeing that we need to deal with them, and that's why we are providing this mechanism in terms of the norms and standards. The allowances are approved by the NSFAS board in concurrence with the minister. Issues about the loan scheme, the minister indicated that NSFAS will come back in a week's time to give more details. However, the minister again clarified that all those students who wants to apply for the loan scheme can do so, and they will be separated from those that are currently for the bursary. It means the financial eligibility criteria will be immediately used to determine the students that will be qualifying for the loan. Maybe just to explain a bit. The loan scheme, you qualify for it if you're earning 350,000 up until 600,000. Now, those are the people that will be considered for the loan scheme. And for the bursary, it remains 0 to 350,000 per annum. So students who wants to apply for the loan can do so immediately. Guidelines as well are the guidelines that have been approved by the board following the academic eligibility criteria as agreed with institutions. Every year, probably to explain the issues of, they look at criteria that are, they look at mechanisms that will ensure that students that of the parents that supports them. So those are the two major criteria that are looked at by this. Thank you. One more. Those,
applied? How many across all universities? And how much space is
Spoke to the numbers.
Respond to that.
Yeah. DG? Here are the numbers.
We're just allowing the DG and Babumnisi to make sure that they give the proper information.
I think this is a very big question. That is why we want to make sure that in responding to it, we question. That is why we want to make sure that in responding to it, we are very clear. Because it's a question about available spaces. Quite often, when this question is asked, people move from the point of view of saying, for example, the pass rate for the class of 2023 has provided more than 570,000 students that have passed. So immediately then people will say, do you have 570,000 spaces to absorb those who exit the basic education? I think that the question is much more about that. In the minister's statement today, he has provided a very clear and specific information that indicates that we already have about 18,541 spaces for engineering. And then he's gone on to indicate that combined, all our universities have received about 270,000 applicants for scarce skills applications for the academic year 2020-2024. And secondly, that 67,929 of these first-time entering enrollments will be within the scarce skills areas and have been projected to include life and physical sciences, which is like 16,415, animal sciences at 614, and etc. But what is important is that we answer the question in full and say in the post-school education and training system, there are enough spaces for more students than those that have passed the class of 2023. The issue is not the number of spaces that are available for the class of 2023. For example, medical students would find that most of the medical institutions will not take more than 200 new students, which means even if there are available spaces in the post-school education and training, but for medical students, there will not be enough spaces. And I think that is much of the applicants. For us to be able to do this, we need to work together with our universities, our registrars, our DDG responsible for university education, meets USAF, meets registrars, and last week there has been a workshop with registrars just to make sure that these specific issues are dealt with so that we assist students with guidelines regarding where and which institutions still have spaces in the areas of interest. I think this is an important one And we must admit as a department that it's an area where we might struggle because it's not something that you can deal with immediately. You need information about those issues. I need to just indicate for further clarity that in the community education and training spaces available, just for community education and training. For TVET colleges, we have 100 universities, we have 201,196 spaces, which therefore means just for colleges, universities together combined, we have 442,830 spaces that are available. But those figures are not addressing the question of what is the percentage of these spaces that are available constitute students that are interested in engineering, for example, in medical sciences and so on. And that is a question that needs to be answered specifically by those responsible for our registration. I have deployed teams of officials that are going to assist our institutions. There's going to be visibility of our officials from our department to assist and support our institutions this year, because we're excited about the performance of the class of 2023, and we are equally, as the post-school education and training system, eager to be available and supportive to parents and students that are stressed, awaiting this opportunity to be admitted in these institutions. But allow me to just make one point that I think is very important. Our Constitution says that basic education is compulsory. But when it comes to further education and training, it says it shall be made available as the state develops the capacity to do so. So every year, the post-school education and training system regarding the readiness to absorb young people whom we have promised education opportunities at basic education level. Because that is what the founders of our country and the Constitution understood that in this platform. For example, data about how many TVET colleges we have built, how many spaces are available, include data. We would like to share that with the public. But we take this opportunity to share our excitement with South Africa about the performance of the class of 2023 and express our readiness in this sector to accept them and assist them, not only to be admitted, but to participate and enjoy the learning experience that we are going to provide in the PSET system. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, DG. Minister? Yes, Minister.
Thanks, DG. Let me accept your argument that the country needs technical and vocational skills in huge abundance. That is why always when we have these press briefings, we emphasize the importance of our NDP target, that you should actually have 4 to 5 TVET college students per one university student. So we have a huge task to change what we call the size and shape of our post-school education and training. Not only TVET colleges, by the way, we also need to expand community colleges quite significantly to cater for all those South Africans who may have not finished school, who want to improve themselves or want to acquire a skill, irrespective of actually have that. So the vocational, yes, you are absolutely right, and technical. But the reason why we're talking about university of crime and detective services, it's actually the SABC, the police, who requested this. Partly as a department, we establish institutions as we assess, but also we establish institutions as per requirement by the rest of government or by business or by society. The reason being that we are really short of excellent, sharp detective services as a country in order to deal with crime effectively. And that is why then, and also you need detectives who are trained at a slightly higher level than has been happening now. That was the logic that the Minister of Police convinced the President. President announced this and of course gave the task to us because we are the department that establishes universities. Personally, I agree with them that there's so much crime and we have those cases. So it makes sense. Remember, by the way, with high levels of crime, we're not going to see my short answer to that. Of course, we are pleased about the University of Science and Innovation because we need also to invest in producing skills, high-level research, and so on. Let me just end, maybe if you allow me, Sompis, by requesting the media to work with us and to help us as well. By where you come across very specific information that requires our response, please reach out to us as the department. And also, let's be less generalizing about problems. If there's a problem at Tshwane University of Technology, I'm sorry, Prof, that's your past university, tell us that you're picking up information that there is this problem of such and such a nature. If you can't deal with it through Tshwane University, you want to talk to us about it, please give us information and not have the tendency of generalizing. There is nothing that I dislike, but there are so many. Where is that? How many? One expects that we work together with the media because it helps us to be able to respond. The other thing also I would like to plead with the media. Please give us space to provide information and respond as well. You know, these days, just about every Tom, Dick, and Harry gets onto the radio. You know? 100,000 NSFAS students have not been paid. You don't know where that comes from. You hear the interviewer saying, oh really? Is that so? Oh wow, that's very bad. Why can't you do your basic research? And usually some of the radio stations have got, by the way, a very smart way. They think it's a smart way. If the program ends at 6, they would bring these people at 5 to 6 who makes these allegations until 5:59. Even if you phone at that time and say, but how can you just allow this person to be telling Lezinganegwane mean? You no longer have a space. Sorry, the program is ended and so on. Please give us space as well. And I want to say, and I don't I mustn't be misread, DM, negative posture. Genocide in Gaza. Are you impartial with that? When it comes to gender-based violence, are you impartial? Or you are partial, you are taking a position to condemn gender-based violence? I don't like this thing. It's an advertising thing. Independent and impartial. You can't be a public broadcaster and be impartial generally. There are things that the public broadcaster must stand for and things that the public broadcaster must stand against. So this is a plea to the media because people seem to think, well, Nzimande becomes very impatient. No, I'm not impatient, but let's work together. If you come to us, we will give you information. We are not saying also do not criticize us. Because the media says, yeah, Nzimande doesn't want us to criticize him. But also if you like to criticize others, you must also be strong enough to take criticism yourself. Thank you very much.
We've noted that question and we were agreeing with Babumnisi Uguti, you'll have a discussion because they need the specifics to follow up on the concern that you raised about service providers of accommodation blacklisting students. So the agreement was that you'll have a discussion with him before we close here so that it is followed. The leadership of NSFAS will say their investigation has shown that it's a broader problem or it exists in particular places, you know. So it will be done like that. On that note, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Minister, the Deputy Minister, the DG, the Chair, who's still very new but hit the ground running, the DDGs present, Babumnisi, and most importantly, our colleagues in the media, you know, who profile our work and make sure that the public understands that the work we do appreciate your presence. And that brings us to the end of the media briefing. Thank you.